we got the little alert on the screen saying the tire's getting low, and so we started looking for a place to pull over, and it's getting low. Okay. No more stories.
Hello everybody, I'm absolutely delighted to be here this evening with Robin Hobb to celebrate publication of our long-awaited Assassin's Fate. And we've taken a number of questions from you over the last few days, and then we're going to open it up to live questions. We're going to run for about half an hour, so if you've got a burning question, you should send it to us on the Voyager page on Facebook, and we will wrangle it into life. But I'm going to start now, Megan, or Robin Hobb. I will stick to your pseudonym. Hannah Brown asks, would you rather be witted or skilled?
Oh, I think the answer to that is fairly straightforward. I would definitely rather be witted. I have a rather boisterous and idiotic large dog right now, and if I could simply communicate with Charlie what I don't want him to do, it would be lovely.
Do you think he'd take notice?
Probably not. He's fond of practical jokes.
Cats would never take any notice of you.
Oh, no,
if
no.
you could speak to them, it would not make an iota of difference.
Oh, no, they ignore us all the time as it is. I'm sure they just continue to, or possibly take offense that we dared to speak to them.
Exactly. Iona Amy Isaac says, if you were to travel by live ship, which of the live ships would you choose?
Oh, my. So I'm thinking through them all. Paragon would be a bit too exciting, perhaps.
I think so, yeah.
So perhaps Vivacia.
Vivacia.
Yes,
She's a lovely character.
She's a fun character in her own way, but she's also very capable of serious thought.
Oh, yeah.
So
I'd choose Tarman.
You choose
I would go with Tarman.
I
love
thought
the
of
Tarman.
Tarman.
He's so quiet and so much himself.
He's more self-contained.
Yes.
So.
Yes, he would be less intrusive on your thoughts.
As far as you know.
As far as you know, yes. I feel there's more of Tarman to come somehow. Gareth Batten says, when you started this journey with Fitz the Fool, did you ever expect so many people would take these characters into their hearts? Personally, they've helped shape my life. I've never felt so connected to any other fictional characters.
I had no idea what the response to it would be. It's I think that every writer really starts out writing for herself or himself, and you hope there will be enough people out there that connect with what you're saying, that feel some sort of kinship with your characters. So it has been quite astonishing to me how many people did connect and did want to travel with Fitz.
Did you never foresaw 17 books when you started out?
No. I had a pretty clear idea of where Fitz's life would take him, but I never expected to write it across as many eras in his life.
I have to say, I don't think I've ever read any fiction where two characters have had such a powerful and at the same time elusive relationship that you can't pin down in any way. And she's always been so secretive about it as well. She never answered any of my direct questions about the Fool.
It isn't me being secretive. It's
the
Fool.
The Fool withholding himself.
He's very private.
Yes.
He's very private. He doesn't.
How did he first come to you?
As one line in the original outline, he was to come onto the stage, give Fitz a vital piece of information, and then he was supposed to gracefully fade into the background to be glimpsed occasionally. And that didn't work out at all.
That's amazing then. So did you never actually see him as the tawny man when you first envisaged him, just as the capering jester?
I saw him as somebody who had a lot more intelligence and cunning and a lot more significance than other people would realize. Somebody who keeps to themselves to the point that you don't realize how important they are.
Yeah. Yes. But did you know that he was going to go all the way through
No,
the
well, at
story?
the beginning, no,
No.
I had no idea. I had no idea.
It gives all of us who write a bit of hope not to be in that much control. Heather K. Veach, and I hope that's how it's pronounced, Heather, says, do you keep a journal? And if you do, is it more like a diary of daily tasks and appointments, or a place to record story ideas, bits of dialogue, and interesting observations?
I used to keep quite a detailed journal when I was a teenager, and in periods of my life I have kept a detailed journal, day to day, of everything I did and things I thought. The journal I keep now is one that is called Garden and Poultry, and it talks about what I planted, what came up, what died, how many chickens the coyote got this week, how many eggs the ducks are laying. The kind of farm thing that I will want to look back and see what was happening in April next year, so I know whether it's safe to plant things.
How many poultry have you got?
At the present time, I have.
How many
have
did you start with?
To 1 rooster and 2 hens.
How many did you start with?
I think I had a good 14 at the beginning of winter. The coyotes, and it's been the bald eagles though.
Oh, really?
Because they're no electric fence bothers a bald
so they're
eagle.
swooping in over the
They
fence?
just come, boom, take what they want, and off they go.
My.
Yes.
That's quite something to see, though.
It's beautiful to see, but horrifying too.
Not when it's your chickens.
No, not when your
poor
chickens
chickens.
are.
Oh,
It's terrible.
no.
They're very fast though.
Yeah.
It happens very
No,
quickly.
well, wild things are impressive, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
Louise Drury asks, would you ever consider having your books turned into TV series or movies? And if so, what would be the conditions that you would have to set?
It's an idea that
question.
we've tossed around a number of times, and I've talked about with friends and with other writers who have or have not gone the right route of having things converted to other media. It would have to be the right situation, and I would have to take one of two courses. I would either have to just open my hand and let it go and say, now you're going to use this as a basis and you're going to create something, or I would have to say, I need to be deeply involved with this and I need some control.
Yeah.
And then how do you write? How do you go on with your other
Absolutely.
projects if you're doing that?
It's a perennial problem. In fact, when Tolkien was asked the same question, he said, cash or kudos? And he said he would have taken the cash. I think in
so.
order to have a clear mind, I think you just have to walk away sometimes.
You have to surrender it. You have to
Yeah.
say, this is going to be somebody else's impression of their experience of having read that book.
Hard, though, especially with characters like Fitz and the Fool that are so close to your heart.
It would be extremely difficult, extremely difficult. So it's something where I don't have to think about it right now, and I won't.
I'm sure you must have had interest over the years. I'm sure you
There
must
have been
done.
nibbles of interest with that, which then evaporate, which seems to be very common with film interest in a book, that there's a little surge of interest, and then they can't put it together the way they want, and so they say, oh, never mind. So
Yes, these things evaporate very quickly, don't they? Yeah. Have you ever thought who you would cast as the Fool? That's a hard one.
David Bowie, but I don't think he's available anymore.
I know.
So
he would have been so perfect.
if we could time travel, then
A
I would
young
be able
Bowie.
to give a young Bowie could have pulled it off perfectly.
Absolutely
I think.
perfect for him.
Mhm.
Kev McVeigh asks, will you write another urban fantasy like Wizard of the Pigeons?
I just finished doing one in a short story for an anthology that Gardner Dozois is editing called The Book of Magic.
Oh.
Now, that's not going to come out for some
This
time.
follows the Book of Swords, then.
The Book of Swords,
in
yes.
which I have to say she has a wonderful, wonderful story called Her Father's Sword. A very powerful piece of writing.
So that's a Robin Hobb story. The urban fantasy for Gardner's anthology is going to be a Megan Lindholm one, because I don't really imagine writing in Robin Hobb's voice and doing an urban fantasy.
I was going to
I
ask
don't
you
think
how
they
you
would mesh.
how you tell the difference when a story comes to you.
I think I know immediately when I
Yeah.
get a story idea if it would work in the Robin Hobb voice or if it's a Megan Lindholm story. And there's an element of attitude as well as style and how complex the story is.
Yes. So not just the setting then, it is about the voice as much as anything.
It really is, yes.
Yeah. Interesting. And in addition to that, the plenty.net,
Yes.
whom you know well, asks, will there be another anthology like The Inheritance?
Only if I write enough stories to fill it. Short stories are very difficult for me. A short story may be half the size of a chapter, but I could probably write 3 chapters in the time it takes me to write and polish and edit and move the pieces about in a short story.
Because you're coming to the world afresh and having to build it for the reader in a short space rather than going into a continuous story.
That's a good part of it, but it's also in a short story, every single sentence has to advance the plot or say something about the character or be about the setting. You can't have any extra sentences because you really don't have that many words to spare.
Yeah.
So it's almost it's almost like working a puzzle to make sure that every sentence is carrying some of the weight and carrying the story forward.
Yes, no, you can't waste any at all. Not that you waste
Not
words anyway.
Well,
I do
love
happen.
to sprawl, and you do love to cut.
Well, I try not to cut. This is a sweet question, and this is going to be the last of the prepared questions, and I'm going to go on to the new ones, which is Paris Greiner, and Paris, I hope I've pronounced your name right, says, I have read all your books, and all of a sudden my 40-year bookworm status has come to a shockingly abrupt halt. I simply can't find anything to read that doesn't seem inferior. Can you take pity on me and recommend another author that's half as gripping as yourself?
Oh, I have many. I would say look at Robin McKinley, look at Joe Abercrombie, Mark Lawrence. Red Sister has just come out. Or no, it's not. Is it not quite out yet?
No, it's out.
Just
It was out
come
last
out.
month.
Red Sister has just come out. I just finished one called Never. Oh dear.
Nevernight.
Nevernight, and that's
Jay Kristoff.
Jay Kristoff. I
Fantastic
keep wanting
book.
to switch the name and make it Chris J something. So, but it's Jay Kristoff.
Yeah.
I just finished that last night.
Good
Finally.
recommendations.
There's just so many wonderful things out there. Just go to the library, pull books off the shelf at random.
Right, we're going live now, so we're going to take some questions from the Facebook page. Okay, here's one. Rachel Towers asks, why Robin Hobb?
Oh, when I began writing Fitz's story, it was moving into a slice of the fantasy genre that I had not written in before. It's epic fantasy as opposed to swords and sorcery or urban fantasy, and it was a very different kind of story to what I had told before. So we decided, my agent and Ralph and I talked about it, and he said, why don't you put a different name on these books so that readers...
Yes, Ralph and I talked about it as well.
readers will know, will understand this is something different. And
I remember us having huge discussions over names and trying to keep it short, trying to keep androgynous.
A short name that fits in nice big letters on the cover.
Yeah.
And each piece has kind of a resonance that I liked, whether it's Robin being Robin Hood, Robin Goodfellow, the first Robin of Spring, and Hobb is, put the kettle on the hob, or it's a hobgoblin.
Nice.
There's all kinds of bits and pieces.
And then I remember talking to John Howe and asking him to do a bit of calligraphy so that we could see what the name would look like, and it was lovely.
It was lovely.
It was a really strong.
He made that original font that is on the original book covers.
So that worked. Julie Marriott asks, how do you get around writer's block?
For me, when I get a block, it's usually that I have done something wrong. When I sit there and I can't push the story forward, I go back, sometimes just to the beginning of the chapter, sometimes several chapters back. And I start rewriting from that point and do a mini rewrite saying, oh, I've had them enter a room and I haven't described it, or this dialogue needs work. And always I will come to a point where I say, that's not what they would have done. And once that's the point where the story has gone wrong and jammed up on itself.
So do you find that you can just ditch that bit then that led you into that point? Just go straight from there?
Just right on from the point and get past the knot past the tangle.
It's an awful.
And the story works again.
Infuriating though, because
It
takes
is.
time, doesn't it? All
is.
this. People always think that writers are so much more in charge of their material than they can be.
No. It's the temptation to take a shortcut in the plot and say, I'm going to make this happen because then it's faster and easier to write, and it never works for me.
No, it doesn't.
You
can't take
you have to
shortcuts.
let things happen.
I think readers can immediately tell if you've taken a shortcut.
I do believe so.
Yeah, and unless you're totally invested in what you're writing, it shows through, doesn't it? Ori Williams says, what do you love most about the fantasy genre?
I think what I like best about the fantasy genre is that anything can happen, and that as a reader I can be pulled into a world where I'm forced to look at things from an entirely different viewpoint. When I read a fiction book that's mainstream fiction, it comes with a lot of preconceived notions. If you mention a political party, I know if I like or dislike them. If you tell me what country I'm in, or what food they're eating, even I know if I like it or dislike it. So I bring all of this luggage with me and stack it on top of the story. But in fantasy, I'm carried off to a world where I may find that I am identifying with the main character who has values that don't match my own, and suddenly I'm able to see why those values could work if I had a different attitude toward the world. So it's pushing the reset button and saying, step into a different reality, try attaching to the world in a different way.
Yes, and a shortcut as well into that character.
Oh yes,
because you can go straight in without having to set a scene in the way that you would do if you were writing in a modern environment.
And I think too that in our modern environment, to me, well, if I say he was driving a Chevrolet, for some people that's saying, oh dear, the poor fellow does not have a Mercedes, and for other people it's a Chevrolet. He has a Chevrolet.
If he's on an old bay horse,
yes,
he's on an old bay horse.
He's on a bay horse. Yeah.
Laura Heather asks, well, I think we've already covered the favourite books at the moment, but she asks, what's the favourite book that you have written?
That I have written.
That's an interesting one.
It's like asking who my favourite child is.
Who is your favourite child?
Not Giles. No, Giles is of course one of my favourite children. It would be really hard to say I had a favourite book. I would say that writing as Megan Lindholm, I most enjoyed the experience of writing Wizard of the Pigeons because I went into Seattle and I was a tourist there.
It's a lovely book.
And I did all kinds of research for it. And writing as Robin Hobb, I would say I have the fondest memories probably of Assassin's Apprentice because it was where I first met Fitz and the Fool
lovely.
and Patience and Burke and Shade, all of the people that I have been friends with now for many, many years.
Yes, I remember you wrote a really beautiful piece for our website and blog and said that you had spent more time in Fitz and the Fool's company in the last 20 years than you had with your own family. That resonated.
True. It's true. Yeah. The children go off to school and I hang out with them.
Now, Maeve, I hope this is how you pronounce your name, Maeve Dummigan asks, if you had a wit companion, what animal would it be?
I am almost certain it would be a canine of some sort. I just have always had really good bonds with dogs, and even as impossible as Charlie is, I wouldn't trade him for anything. And our other dog is Ginger, who is actually my husband's dog, 100%. But she puts up with me, and she's a very good friend.
Your pack.
Yes. And then we have a cat named Little Black Dog, who is actually a pretty good cat. Is
Do cats actually take any notice of what you name them?
Not really. We have the 2 cats. We have a little black dog, and we have, of course, Diego.
Diego, who makes up for anything that's
Yes.
small.
And
the size of a small planet.
in an email yesterday, Fred said that there is a half-grown calico that he's feeding on the back
nice.
porch. So I think I have 3 cats now, and I just don't know it.
Let's hope she's not pregnant, or you'll have a lot more.
Oh, yes. That was he said, maybe I can catch her and spay her. And I'm going, oh, sure, you'll do that. I know who'll do that.
They know. She knows. She's found a sucker.
Oh, yes.
Cats know. We had one move in.
Mm-hmm.
Ryan Franks, or Frunks, Ryan, sorry if I got that wrong, asks, what advice do you have for an insecure author?
Well, I think the first thing to do is to write, to persevere in your writing, to keep writing, to write every day, and to realize that you don't have to get it right the first time. To give yourself, turn the squelch on your internal editor, just turn that voice way down, and say, today I'm getting the scene down. And once you have it down, you can fix it. But you can't fix it till you've got something on the page. And I used to agonize over titles because, the title is so important in the first sentence. And I used to just, as a young writer, sit there and redo my first sentence 40 times when I just needed to actually write the chapter and then worry about it.
You can fritter a lot of time away like that.
Yes.
And then throw away half the chapter, so it was a complete waste of time anyway.
Exactly.
Laura Lamb, hello Laura, asks, can you tell us a little bit about the editorial process between you and Jane? Now be careful.
Oh, Laura, wait till I see you again. I write the manuscript once, frequently going back within the manuscript to fix obvious things. And then before I send it to Jane, I go through it from the very beginning to the very end again. And I look at everything, and I do my best to make it something that I'm proud of. And I send it off, and for 48 hours, I'm elated and chuckling about how wonderful it is. And then I spend 3 days thinking, how could I have sent her that? But I think we still do a lot of old-fashioned editing in the sense that it's page by page, notes and markings on and this time it's an electronic manuscript we send back and forth. We used to send back and forth
Do you remember that?
big box with blue pencil marks.
With margin notes.
Margin notes.
This character died.
But we both...
Remember that one?
Yes, you have a dead man rowing the boat. Thank you, Jane. I hadn't noticed. But that's so important because from the beginning you've been there. And so you knew it was a dead man. It wasn't like you just, she's named this character that, and it's fine. And
yes, my memory's not as good as it used to be. Oh, heaven knows what could slip through.
Don't tell me that now. But that depth of knowledge of what we have created, because it has been you and I over the past 25, 30 years of
30
writing.
years this year.
30 years of writing, and
Terrifying.
25 at least for the... Is it more than 25 for the Farseer trilogy?
We published the first one in 95, so I must have had it in 93, 94.
It's been a while.
It's been a long time.
It's been a long time.
27 years at least on these books. And
but lots of notes
some
back
before.
and forth. And then Anne Grell, who is my U.S. editor, she often shares her notes with Jane, and then they come up with a united front to persuade me
we don't collude. We just think the same way.
that section has to go.
It's amazing though, we always do feel the same about things. It's good. So that does seem to work.
It does
but
work.
I don't think we gang up on you. I hope we
I've
don't.
never felt that. There are points where, of course, I get up and stomp around the house and say, no, that's important, and then I go outside and pull weeds or do something and come back and say, no, I don't really need that, and toss it out, and on we go.
No, it's been one of the richest experiences of my life, I must say, as an editor, working with you. It's been an amazing privilege.
It's worked very, very well for me.
And let's hope we've got lots more.
I hope so too.
Laura Heather asks, do you find yourself dreaming about your characters?
Every now and then. That's rather more rare now than it used to be. But it's not dreaming at night so much as a voice in my voices. I hear voices. A voice in my
Writers
head.
do.
Fitz's voice is very, very distinctive, and I will be doing a task, something mundane, weeding turnips or unloading the feed, and it's like there's a narrative of if Fitz were doing this, what he would be thinking about and doing.
Oh,
And it's he's back there all the time.
that's interesting.
So it's
well, it's a question that I've always wondered about: is how much of you inhabits each of the characters? Because I think for all writers, you inhabit all of them to a certain extent.
we can deny it, but where else do they come from?
Well, I know.
They're all living
Fitz
back
is
there
really
somewhere.
annoying.
Yes, so am I.
How much are you going to admit to here?
He says a lot of the things that I would not say out loud, I think. That the observations of people, we share a lot of opinions. I don't think I am Fitz, and I do not think Fitz is me, but we do share a lot of opinions about things.
And so does the fool sort of balance that out? Is that a...
Do you ever have that voice in the back of your head that's making fun of you all
Yeah.
the time? Oh,
Sometimes,
yeah,
not all the time. Yeah.
So, yes.
But I talk to myself, so...
Well, we all
You
do.
just have the fool talking to you instead.
The running commentary.
Yes, well, I suppose all writers do to a certain
I think
extent.
they do.
It must be. It's fun though, isn't it? Creating the evil characters, letting that side of yourself out into them.
It's a little frightening sometimes of what
Do you scare yourself with?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
We have lots of winners.
Oh, wonderful.
Because we've had competitions, and next week we're going to run some competitions on the site as well, on the Facebook page. So keep checking in next week. But we're going to have some signed books for the winners. And Megan is going to sign these. And the winners are Zur Guetta, let me hope I have pronounced that right, Jeremy Howell, Valda Adams, Gareth Batten and Nadine Mogford.
Nadine?
Nadine,
Oh.
with the wonderful hair. Oh, so that's lovely. So these will be signed and sent out to you. That's a really good thing. And next week we will also be offering signed copies of these posters of the realm of the Elderlings world, with the running order of every single book in the series, which I take so many questions from people asking whether they can skip any of the component parts.
It's a standard question on the website, even when I put them in order.
People are so desperate to get to the end of the story. The journey is the thing. Don't be too hurried to get to the end. Megan Lindholm, Robin Hobb, it's been a pleasure sharing these 30 years with you.
Thank you, Jane Johnson.
Culminating in this fantastic book. And thank you for doing the Facebook Live for Voyager.
Oh, this came out very well this time, I think.
Thank you.